We're going to make some risotto with lobster. First thing I'm going to do is boil this lobster for 10 minutes. And make sure it's alive. So, why 10 minutes? Because then the meat will come off of the shell fairly easy, and I won't be overcooking the lobster because we're going to add it to the risotto towards the end. And I chose to make this not a traditional way because I want taste, and I know all these things will give me a nice flavor. I'm putting some carrots, celery, and corn into it, and of course shallots and garlic and butter and some dry white wine. So 10 minutes after this, we let it cool, and we're going to use the stock. And once I take all of the meat out, I'm going to put the shells back into the to the water there, and even take more flavor out of the shell, because you need the flavor of the lobster to go into the risotto. You just can't make the risotto, boil up a lobster and not use the stock. That wouldn't make any sense. And we got some fresh Parmesan cheese I'm going to shred over it later. And to really give it a great flavor, I'm going to put some black truffle oil into it at the very end. So let me get started dicing things up. Fresh corn, or you can use frozen corn, but not canned corn. Okay, the lobster's out. The stock is still boiling. Let this cool down and work with it in the pan, because when you crack this open and you pull out the meat, juices are going to go into the pan, but you're going to go back into here, so you don't want to lose those delicious lobster juice. Well, while the lobster was cooking and while it was cooling down, I diced everything up, very small dice, if you want to call it brunoise style. And the scallions on a bias, save that till later. Mushrooms like scallopé, cut in 6 pieces, and the fresh corn. So later we're going to saute this in the butter with the risotto and allow it to cook. Finish it. Add the lobster at the end. Should be good. And it's usually not made like this, but at times you make a vegetable stock to go along with whatever you're cooking. It's up to the individual. Could have used a fish stock to go with this because it's seafood. We're getting the most out of the lobster by later crushing the shell a little bit and boiling it up. And then we have the flavor of these vegetables, which is like a vegetable stock. So together, we're going to be good. The easiest way to do this is to take a knife, go straight down, put a board on your pan, and just now you still have the juicy tail meat, if you see all the juice there, which is good. Then you'll take your claws stuck myself. Dangerous animal. You're going to crack the claw. First pull this out, which allows the meat to come out of here much easier. And look at the juice coming out. Like I said, That is solid lobster flavor, and you want that. So when you crack this, there's that. And then in here, look, I'm bleeding already. In here, we're going to take this piece, we're going to crack this, take the meat out of there, take a little, those little tiny forks that they give you when you're eating this, and pull the meat out. Same thing. The tail meat might come out relatively easy just with your hand. There's the tail meat. See this, the corral, all this. That is tasty. That's going to be boiled up. That flavor is needed, and I'm bleeding to death. So be careful. So this is 1.25 pounds, a drop over. It's not a lot of lobster, but you do get some in the claws, a good amount. But it's the flavor of the entire dish that you will be enjoying. Notice how easy that comes out. So we're going to refrigerate the meat. This I'm going to break up a little, put it back in the stock, and boil it for about 45 minutes. Now let's just look at this. Look at the amount of stock that's there. See that? That is pure lobster flavor. That's what's going to make this dish. And I broke the shells up in little pieces, and this will extract, by doing this, even more flavor than what we had in there. Okay, so you see how much we want to come out with. Almost a quart of liquid. It really doesn't matter, because whatever liquid we're short with this, we're going to add water to it. So as you can see, we're going to cover this. It won't reduce because the steam will stay inside, and I'm going to just simmer that in my rice cooker for about ½ an hour. And everything else is in the refrigerator. All wrapped up, ready to be cooked later with the lobster meat. So this preparation probably took just now, I don't know, about 45 minutes to an hour. This is not a quickie, but it's a goodie. So now I'm ready to do the next step with this. If you notice, it's only reduced a little bit. And I'm going to come away with whatever this is. I'm going to fill up the quart container, put it through the chinois, fill this up with the rest water to start my risotto later. So I'm going to take this over to the sink now and just strain it. And then in a few hours, when it's time to eat, I'll finish the risotto. It's time to put this dish together. 2 tablespoons of butter, and with that, some olive oil. No rhyme or reason why I did that, except I just didn't want to put a hell of a lot of butter in there, like a half a stick, or even a whole stick for something like this. It tastes better. Okay, So in here, going to put the vegetables, and they're cooking up already. And the rice, I'm not making a lot of rice. I'm pretty sure that this should be plenty for 2 people. There's not a lot of lobster. 1 cup and a half. So later for the seasoning, and I'll be using this kind of salt. Let me get some more lighting on this. Well, I know it doesn't go through a refining process as much as regular, because white salt, this is not. You see the color. It's a little bit darker. So this has to be better for you. And you know, when you're making risotto, you have to keep on adding liquid slowly, stirring it. This brand of aborio rice, this is not the best, but it's good. There are others that are much better. And while this is cooking, what I should do is take the lobster meat, so remember I said this was a pound 1.33, not 1.25 pounds, and this, that is all the lobster meat you get. It's not a lot. And that's $15 worth. It's not that I'm cheap. Well, maybe I am. I could have spent $30 and we'd eat a lot of lobster, but you know what? The rice is going to be tasty. The flavor is going to be there. Just a little bit before I add. Moderate flame, a little bit more cooking like this. And okay, so I'm not going to waste film on me doing this. The first thing I'm going to add is going to be the wine. Let the wine soak into whatever there. And then I will add the chicken stock. Sometimes I add heavy cream at the end just to richen it up, but I'm not doing it this time. A lot of people don't put heavy cream. It's not the correct way, but you know what? The correct way of doing something is whatever way it takes to make it taste good. This is the basic for... No, I better shut my mouth. I'm going to get people cursing me out. Anyway, I'm using champagne because I can't find any white wine, but this is a dry champagne since I tasted it. It's not as if I'm wasting it, because the rest of the bottle we will just drink during our meal. And since this probably came from someone who visited us while we were having, you know, one of our dinners, and it's not $100 bottle anyway. So now, this is what you have to do. Stir it. It will reduce a little. As it reduces, I'm going to add some of the lobster stock. And it'll keep cooking down, and you add more. And when the rice is done, and it looks somewhat creamy, not too stiff and not watery, then you sit down and you eat the risotto. The mushrooms are going to help with some nice flavor in there, especially the white button mushrooms. I shouldn't be hitting that, because then you can't hear me talk. You can use shiitake, portobello, cremini, whatever you like, but I like the flavor that the white domestic button mushrooms give off. And right now I'm going to go and dice up the lobster and stir this and keep stirring it. Not too hot. The champagne was cold, so it's going to take a little time for this to simmer. So I don't want to waste film, and I'll be back. And while that's cooking, I'm going to grate up this piece of Parmesan cheese, and that'll be ready to put on top later. I'm making long thin, like so. It'll look nice on top. So now we're cooking. Now I'll add a little bit more stock and get back to where we just were before I added the stock, and then I'll be adding more. We added a little bit wine, then some stock, and now again with some stock. Going to add now 1 teaspoon of the sea salt, because I don't want to waste time later. At the very end, when this is ready, it's time to serve. And I'm putting black pepper, but you shouldn't put black pepper in if it's going to be a white, creamy looking dish. You don't want to see black spots in there. But since I'm eating it, I like to taste the black pepper better than white pepper. So you would put a little white pepper in here. Now I'm going to taste it. Coming along very nicely. Now a little more stock. And we'll be adding some more. So far, that's about what I have left from the quart. And maybe that will be enough. I just put one of these piece of rice in my mouth just to feel if it was extremely hard, and it's hard. But from this point, it doesn't take too long. And I'm not going to add any more salt because the Parmesan cheese is very salty. Pepper, yes. And if you don't want to add corn to this dish, don't add it. I put it in because I like rice, I like corn, I like mushrooms, I like lobster. So that means it's all going to work together, regardless of what anybody says. And that's the end of a quart. And I'm pretty sure that might make it. Let this cook down, and hopefully when it gets down, we'll be done. Now I was going to put the lobster in there at the very end, but I changed my mind. I'm going to heat it up, dish up the risotto in the soup plate, and put the lobster dead center and decorate it around. Looks is everything, especially when you don't have a ton of lobster to work with. Well, I lied about the amount of salt. I added another teaspoon. And by the time this cooks down, it's going to be ready to serve. Because the rice is just a little bit firm. Oh, you can put herbs in here if you want also, whatever you like. This will be ready in about 2 minutes. That's it. Moist, not runny. And now we're going to dish it up. Look at the plate. First we'll put this in there. That's good. That should be enough for one. That's why I didn't put the lobster in there, because there's really more than enough rice.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Now I'll put the lobster on top. We've got people commenting here, and you know what? They're not going to get fed. Well, there we go with the scallions. And then on top of the scallions, we're going to drizzle the most important item, which I almost forgot, but it always goes in last anyway, the truffle oil. Doesn't take a lot, just a few drops. It's very strong in flavor. That's enough of that one. Then we have the cheese. That's enough. One more piece of green on top. And voila, we're done. Let's get a close-up. Is that close enough? Let's go down. And there you go. Hope you enjoy. Hope my wife enjoys it too, for opening her mouth.